Hey there, it's Lenny McGill with the GlockStore Performance and Custom Shop here in our Nashville studios, and we're going to show you something that's really cool. I mean, it just came across our desk the other day, and I said, you know what? We're going to start carrying that because it makes a lot of sense. What it is, it's a, well, it's called a Guardian, and it's an adapter plate for your Optic. And this MOS adapter plate has a guard in front of the Optic to kind of give it some protection. And you can see it here. This one is designed for the RMR, and the concept is it's an aluminum body that's hardened aluminum. It's kind of the high grade aluminum that protects the front end of your Optic, and also provides the MOS plate. And even more so, they have built in a front sight, or excuse me, a rear sight that goes in front of the Optic, which is basically like our combat cut. So the concept is that it's an adapter plate with some protection and a rear sight built into it. It's pretty cool. And the installation of this thing is kind of tricky, and so I thought I'd show you how to do it, but also at the same time, kind of talk about some of the features of this, and really, the cool features. You can actually rack the slide with anything really. I'm using my hand, but you could put it on a table, and you're protecting the Optic, the glass, which is important because the optics are expensive. So the other thing it does come with is a higher or suppressor sight or Optic ready front sight. So MOS adapter plate with a guard, front sight, rear sight that is basically in the combat cut position. Let's go ahead and install one here on this gun that I've got kind of staged up here. I'm going to put this one down. This is a Glock 47 in the FDE. The 47s are the replacement for the Glock 17 MOS Gen 5. Now, if you recognize what's going on there, Glock came out with the Glock 17 Gen 5. Then they came out with the Glock 17 Gen 5 MOS. And they discontinued the Glock 17 Gen 5 MOS, and they introduced the Glock 47 MOS. The Glock 47 will accept either a Glock 17 upper or a Glock 19 upper, which is pretty cool. That makes it really neat. So, but for those of you looking for the Glock 17 Gen 5 MOS, and people do call and say, hey, why isn't there no MOS version? This is the replacement. The 47 is the replacement, and it's the one that is available because they're not making the MOS Glock 17 Gen 5 anymore. So I've already removed the Optic plate screws. Now, the MOS guns come with a cover plate, they call it, and I've removed those screws. When they first did the MOS guns, these were steel. And they were cool. And so if you have one of these steel ones, they're pretty valuable as far as the cover plates go. Then Glock, I'm sure the accountants and the machinists, and everybody said, hey, this is just taking too long to make because they're, pretty, it's a pretty big piece to make. We're in the plastic business, let's make it out of plastic. And they did, and it's fine because most people don't use it. Once you get it, you take it away. So, but what I'm going to say to you is once you take the screws out, once you take this, put these things in a bag. Don't lose your screws because people call all the time and say, hey, I want to buy some screws. And, we do have replacement screws, but don't lose them because, you'll find someday, someplace, sometime, you're going to want to go ahead and put that plate back on. And it happens. We get calls, like I said, every week. There's the slide without the Optic plate, and that's called the MOS footprint or cutout. Okay? It's got two holes in it that actually accept the cover plate that we just took out, but it also will accept this MOS plate, adapter plate with the guard on it. And you'll notice it kind of just like finds its place right there, and those two holes marry up right there. All right, so I'm kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit because what I want to do first, because I'm going to install the rear sight. Now, it's an option, okay? So that's one of the things to keep in mind. The rear sight that goes inside of this guard is optional. It does come included. You don't have to use it. You can still use your rear sight here and put some suppressor-ready sights on there in front and rear if you so desire. However, this package comes with the front sight, the Optic-ready front sight, and the rear sight built into this guard, which I think is pretty cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off the rear sight, And we're going to take off the front sight, and we're going to install the Optic ready sight that comes with it. And then we're going to go ahead and show you how to get this rear sight installed into this, and then we'll put this, being the guard, onto the plate, and then we'll put the RMR on top of it. That's kind of a process. Now, this gun I know is unloaded, but you don't know, so I'm going to go ahead and drop the magazine, check inside. The magazine's empty. I'm going to go ahead and check inside the chamber, and the gun is unloaded. I'm going to pull the trigger in a safe direction. Now I can go ahead and kind of work on it. Take off the slide, the same concept as before. I'm going to pull the slide back just a little bit and pull down on the slide lock on both sides and hold down. And as I hold down, I just walk the slide straight off, and here it comes. Sometimes it gets stuck a little bit. Just yank on it, it comes right off. What's of note here is that this G47 uses a Glock 19 guide rod. Okay, kind of funny, isn't it? But it does, and so that's why I can actually use a Glock 19 slide as well. So I'm going to go ahead and take the guide rod out, take the barrel out. Get back here, you. And then I'm going to go ahead and have access to the front sight, and then I'll also talk about the rear sight and removing it. The front sight is really interesting. You know, there's only one way to do this, and you have to have a front sight tool. Okay, it is almost, probably next to impossible to manipulate that screw with a pair of pliers or any other tool except for a true front sight tool. There's a bunch of them that we sell. This happens to be one that's on our website. There's a number here somewhere that'll associate with it. It's pretty cool. It's easy. The Glock 47 has this little ring here on the bottom of the slide, and it's got a hole in it, and the hole is designed so that I can actually put my tool in here and get to that front sight. Now, you may not be able to see this. I don't know if you will or not. Let's see if I can get in there. But there, that shiny head right there is the front sight screw. And we're going to use that screw again with the front sight that comes with this piece, because they don't give you a screw. And we do sell screws. People do lose that screw. It's a tiny little screw, you'll see. And it's got a flat head, so it can clear the slide and the barrel and all that stuff. So I'm going to take my tool, and I'm going to stick it down inside that hole, and I'm going to kind of get it lined up on top of there, and I got to make sure I can see what I'm doing here. And it, once you get it set, it's there, and then it just screws right off. And again, there's no other way to do this. I've tried it with a pair of needle nose pliers on all kinds of different slides. You have to have a front sight tool to take the front sight off and to install a front sight. And once you unscrew that, the nice thing about this particular tool, it has a magnet in it, so it actually grabs the front sight. Now, watch this. I'm going to pull it out, and there's the flat head. See if I can hold it for you. See how skinny that thing is? There you go. And that's what it looks like on front. And this tool goes right over top of that head. And that's how it works. And that's why you have to have that tool. All right, now, we turn this over, and now the sight is just going to kind of pop out. And you'll notice that it's an oval hole is what it is. And the oval hole is very important because it helps align and keep the sight so it doesn't turn or it's always forward facing. So there's the front sight that comes from the factory. And they, like I said, they don't give you a screw with this package, so you have to use that screw over. If I did get that screw, I would screw it directly back in there so they don't lose it. Okay? Now, here's a replacement front sight. It's just a black sight, nothing special about it, but that's what they give you. And there's the oval piece on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up and just pop it in place. And typically it kind of goes in, and it's just one way. And oops, it'll pop in. I didn't get it popped in there. I got it seated, but not all the way. So let's go ahead. There it is. So you're going to notice that it's once it's in, it doesn't want to turn any which way. Let me get it seated a little bit better than that, if I can. And then I'm going to take my screw and screw it in right here. And again, this is why you need this magnet, because it's almost impossible to line up unless you have it with the magnet. And as I screw it in, I get down. And now I would say to you that, it's important that you use Loctite on this particular screw. And a little dab will do you. You don't need to do a lot, but it's real important that you put just a little dab on the threads of this screw. We want to hand tighten this. And I would say to you, if you're really strong, be careful because you can pop that head straight off. This is a pretty small screw, so be, you know, I mean, don't try to kill it. Boom, just hand tighten it. Little Loctite, like I said, will help keep it on. And that's it. Now it's locked in place. Looks like it's squared up. It's where I want it to be. It's out of the way of the barrel. It's all the way down. So I'm good with that front sight installation. And that's how simple it really is. If you have the right tool, it's really easy. So now, the rear sight. This is the factory plastic rear sight. And there's a couple ways to take this off. I can literally take my hammer, which is right here, use a nylon tip and just kind of beat it off. And it'll come off. Now, by doing that, sometimes what happens is I may distort it a little bit and won't be able to be used again. Okay? They do include a little nylon, you know, punch that I would kind of, like I said, put my sight down, get my hand up on top and tap that out. That works too. But again, I have a chance that I can actually distort this. This is a plastic sight. By beating on it a little too much like that, it could actually damage it and it may not be reusable. So let me go ahead and show you a better alternative. And this is certainly something that we sell a ton of because it really works. This is a sight pusher. This is the best sight pusher that I've seen. I've been selling sight pushers for 25 years. This one, price point wise, function wise, everything is just head and shoulders above everything else. It works great for all kinds of guns, not just Glocks. The other thing about it is it will not damage the sights in a sense. It won't distort them as if you beat them off with a hammer or something like that. So, because it's called a pusher, so it's very light, you know, in the sense that it pushes. You'll notice what happens is, you know, you basically rotate this piece right here, and it'll turn this across, and they'll come out and they'll go. You know, this thing goes like this, and it kind of slowly pushes. So I'll go ahead and, you know, kind of get it lined up. I've got it kind of preset right now for this Glock slide because I don't want to take too much time to do it. Let me show you how this works. So I'm going to put the slide in like so, and I'm going to bring it up so that the top part, and once I get it lined up, I'll show you, will intersect with that. So the top part of this sight pusher just grabs hold of the slide. There we go. Now I want to lock this in place, and then lock it down. Okay. So now basically what I've done is I've kind of positioned the slide so that the pusher part of it, which is right here, will push across and will actually slowly and gently remove the sight. So let me get it started here a little bit, and then I'll show you how it's going to look. All right, here it comes. Now you're not going to be able to see it from that side, so I'm going to come around here. Let's see if we can make this work. All right, here we go. So you can see now I'm actually pushing the slide, the sights off with this screw action. And here they come. And like I said, it's a nice gentle motion, so it's not damaging this piece. And what's really nice about this is it works great with the steel sights that sometimes are a lot more difficult than the plastic. Okay, I think I'm almost done. And yeah, it looks like it's off now. All right, there we go. Yeah, so it's off, just like that. So now what I can do is I'll release my slide a little bit. There comes the rear sight. Let me go ahead and draw your attention to this real quick before we do too much more. You can see that this now is perfect. It's not been damaged whatsoever. When I turn this over, well, there it is, actually, it fell out, is a small metal insert that actually goes into the bottom of this sight, and it actually acts as like a spring that when you put it into the dovetail, it kind of springs open a little bit and helps keep it in there. Kind of supposed to snap in there and stay in there, and this one Yeah, there it is. It's staying now. So, you know, the bottom line is you know, I think the sight pusher has a purpose because it really helps protect the sights. And it works great with your iron sights as well, your Trijicon sights and True Glow and Ameriglow and all those other sights. You know, it's really a great tool to have. Now, once I take this out, I want to make sure that I keep it with my front sight in some type of bag so that I don't lose it. And if I had the screw for that front sight, I'd want to keep that all together, because at some point you may want to go back, or you may want to be able to share those with someone or do something, because we get people all the time calling and saying, hey, can I buy a front sight? Oh, can I buy this? Can I buy that? And, you know, I mean, we sell parts, of course, but, you know, that's usually they just misplace them. Now, I'm going to take this slide out of here. Pretty simple. Basically, I'm just going to walk this back a little bit and get to the point where the slide can come out. I don't really have to do this, but I can show you real quick. The next step is going to be install the little plate that they give to fill the dovetail, which is thoughtful. Again, not necessarily necessary, but thoughtful. Okay, and let's get this all the way down. And there we go. All right, there's our sight pusher. Now, it's time to install the little plate they give you to fill the dovetail. And this one I can actually do with the hammer. Kind of get it started. Take my hammer and just give it a couple taps. Now to true it up, that's where they give you this little nylon punch. And you just stick it on here and kind of, and now you're just going to eyeball it and say, oh, I went back a little too far. So I'm going to come back just a second. One little tap. And it looks like it's centered up, just like that. All right, so now we're about ready to install the actual guard for the Optic plate guard. It's actually pretty cool, to be honest. Now, there's a couple tricky things here. Before I actually put it on, I want to show you how they do the, they call them stud locks, you know, basically. And it's kind of a neat concept because it allows them to use a larger screw. And one of the things that, you know, we've seen with some of the MOS adapter plates is the screws are tiny. And because of that, they actually shear off. So this is a well thought out concept. They have these little, what they call studs, okay? And then they have the screws that go with them. There are the two studs, and here's the two screws. So if you imagine what's going to happen here, I'm going to put the studs underneath, and they're going to come up, and they're going to sit there, and then I'm going to screw the screw down to attach the Optic onto the stud. So you got to do this in the right sequence. And before I even go there, I think it's going to be a lot easier to install the rear sight concept before, because I have, you know, this thing in my hand. Now the rear sight concept is really interesting too. I mean, this is really like a puzzle. If you look on the rear sight that they have provided, it's got a little slot or a little ledge here that goes into the slot here on the guard itself, on the actual Optic plate. So basically, I'm going to stick this down into that slot here, and I got to get it closer so I can actually see what I'm doing. And this will be hard to show you, but once you get it positioned, I think you'll get the concept. There you go. Almost. Come on now. Okay. That's what it looks like there. So now you see you'll have a built-in rear sight into this MOS adapter plate with the guard. And there's a tiny little screw, little set screw, that's going to set that into place. So I'm going to come straight down here and just set that. Now again, I would use Loctite if I were to keep this thing for real. In a sense, if I was going to shoot it. I'm just doing the demo here, but you want to put Loctite on all these screws because there's a tremendous amount of pressure. Let's see if I can actually get it to start here. And finger pressure tight. We don't need to crush it. And it looks good. Looks like it's in place where it's supposed to be. Okay. Now, we're almost to the point where we're going to stick our studs in there. Remember, this is how it looks when it's done. The studs are going to come out of these two holes. Before I attach the actual adapter plate to the MOS cutout, I need to put those studs in, because otherwise we can't get underneath there, right? The studs are the ones without the screws, and the screws are going to go from the underneath. And you'll notice, if you take a good peek here, that the screws have a squared edge, and you'll notice that this has, you know, kind of a not quite perfect circle. So the squared edge is going to marry up there. So you want to make sure you lock it into place. And it'll seat itself, and you want it to be seated all the way down, because obviously you want to sit it on the plate perfectly as well. So there it is, and here comes the next one. And all you do is give them a twist, and it'll find itself. And there we have it. So they're kind of locked in place, and now I want to go ahead and just kind of hold on to them as I place it into the actual slide cutout itself. Oops, let's see here. Okay, there it is. Now you see the concept, what's happening so far? So I've got a studs right here, and then this is the, you know, little kind of sleeve that goes over top of it. But first the optic goes on. So here is an RMR in FDE, kind of match up to the gun. So we're going to stick this right on top like that. Check that out. So that's the look so far. Before I do that, I've got to attach the plate to the actual cutout itself. And to do that, I'm going to use a different set of screws that come with it. These are the two screws that come with it. The screws that came off on the MOS optic plate, like I said, you're going to want to keep those with the optic plate and keep them in a bag. They're too long for this. If you notice what's happening on this optic plate, it's got a cutout there, and it's a little different shape. They're not going to be able to be used to attach the plate to the actual MOS cutout. The screws that are provided, not only are they screws, but they have a little washer that's stuck around them. You can't even see it, it's so tiny. But it's kind of neat because it's kind of like, you know, like I said, it's a washer, but it's a rubber washer, so it kind of helps you compress it and get it really tight. This tool is included, so we'll go ahead and get these guys started right now. Again, I would put Loctite on these. I got to tell you that a million times, because you're going to want to use Loctite on every one of the screwed surfaces. There is a lot of vibration. And here comes the next screw. Where is it? It's right here. Okay. Yeah, and so typically what you're going to want to do is not tighten one down all the way, kind of get them started and kind of get it to, kind of like a car lug nut, you know, you do one here and one here and one here and one here, because you don't want it to tilt. So tighten a little bit on one side, come back to the other side, go back to the other side, go back to the other side, and kind of just, you know, go between them. So again, you really want to, and you also, you know, while you're doing it, just make sure it's seated, because it may just get tilted a little bit, and you don't want that to happen. You want it to be as nice and level as possible. Okay, and again, I'm just doing finger tight here. You can put this on a tool and actually give it a little bit more. And these are pretty robust screws, but I would be very careful not to beat them up too much or be too aggressive. If you use Loctite, it's going to be plenty. Now, because the optic sits on top, they shouldn't actually vibrate out. But again, use Loctite. So Optic, boom, boom, has 2 holes, going to line up to these 2 posts. Boom. Pretty cool so far, huh? I mean, look at it. It fits like a glove. This is what's really cool. This is just designed especially for the RMR. And there is a C version as well, the Optic, the Holosun 507C concept. So this one is the RMR. Now, I will say to you that the 507, which I have right here, will fit as well in the same plate that's even designed for the RMR. Doesn't look as good because it's not quite as shaped, but it will fit. All right, but we're going to sell the RMR because that's the one it's supposed to be. And I'm almost done here, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Again, now here's what's interesting. This sleeve or piece has threads on the inside to match up to the threads on the posts that have been pre-installed. I would drop a little bit of Loctite on these posts and then get over top of this thing and get these started. Again, the same tool that they provide will actually get this going here. So I'm going to come down halfway or maybe just to where it gets a little bit tight, not too tight. Do the same thing on the other side. Whoops, jumped out on me. Finger tight, go back to the other one. Boom, boom, and a couple more pounds on either side. I'm good. Okay. Wow, that was, it's got process, right? Because there's a lot of things going on. I mean, really, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, there's a lot of screws. so there's, you know, a lot going on here. And but you know what's really cool is that it looks great. And I like the fact that it gives you that protection of your optic. It looks pretty cool. The other thing, you know, hey, it comes with the sights, so you don't have to buy suppressor height sights. Now, if you want night sights, you can do that. You don't have to use that front or rear sight option there. Let's put this back together and put it back on the gun. Barrel goes in like so, boom, right? This is the guide rod concept on this G47. A lot of people always say to me, well, gee, you know, is a guide rod, is it supposed to sit up there? And you say, no, 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 no. It's supposed to go in and sit on the bottom of the crescent shaped or the half moon shape down there on the bottom of that barrel. Now, what happens is when you take the gun apart, oftentimes it jumps up to that top ledge there and people think it's broken or it's not working properly. It happens a lot. I would say it happens 80, 90% of the time I take a gun apart. And I look at it and I go, well, that's just the way it is. People think that it's not fitting properly. But when it's not going to go and it's not going to fit in the gun unless it's actually seated, okay? It just how it happens as you start to disassemble them, they sometimes jump out on you. And you get it seated all the way down on the bottom, just like it's supposed to be. Okay. Now, here it comes on top of my frame. Boom. Boom. And that's what it looks like. And that's the full installation. And what's really cool, you get up here and that rear sight and the dot and the front sight all align. So this is a pretty cool item. It's brand new for us. I just thought it was neat. I think it looks pretty cool too. And that's really half of it, you know, is it looks good. But, you know, for the price point, you're actually getting the guard and the sights for about the, you know, about the price of the actual suppressor sights themselves. So it's a pretty good deal. And you know, like I said, the installation is a little tricky. As long as you remember to keep those posts in there first. Don't go and put it on and then try to put the post in. You know, that's, you know, one of the things that, you know, it's pretty easy to do. But, you know, it's a pretty cool item. We've got them now. They're available now for the RMR. The Holosun C should be in stock at any moment. And if you're looking to give your optic some protection, not a bad option. I'm Lenny McGill. This, of course, is the GlockStore Performance and Custom Shop here in the Nashville studios today. And if you're ever in Nashville, I invite you to drop by. People come by all the time and say, hey, I saw your video, I want to see Lenny. And I come out and shake their hand and take pictures. It's a lot of fun. I love meeting people, love meeting you. And I invite you to come down and check it out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.